went extinct, just like that. And they're still trying to figure out why. They exterminated them all. So there proves that humans can cause mass extinctions. What that tells you is the safest place to have been on Earth during these events would have been Africa.
You think they knew it was going to happen?
I think we could make a strong argument that somebody did know.
How so?
3 teams separately proposed that the extinction of the dinosaurs at the KT boundary was triggered by an impact. The team of Walter and Louis Alvarez, who studied the outcrop in Italy, theirs seemed to be the most accurate in terms of what we now know happened then. But it took a decade for them to be vindicated, and it was with the discovery of that huge crater and the dating of that crater that, again, right there, 66 million years ago, right? Now, of course, that was long before humans. Now, fast forward to the Younger Dryas, the lower Younger Dryas boundary, which is dated just a little bit younger than 12,900 years. Iridium has been found. Platinum has been found. At that, nanodiamonds have been found, which are microscopic diamonds. And the only other place that diamonds just like that have been found, the KT boundary from 66 million years ago.
Wow.
So it's almost certain that but we still have large factions of the scientific community that doesn't want to go there, doesn't want to admit that there could have been a global catastrophe 12 or 13,000 years ago. And, part of the political narrative now is that humans are causing the 6th great mass extinction, and Exhibit A is the fact, look what humans did to the woolly mammoths. They exterminated them all. So there proves that humans can cause mass extinctions. They don't want that to be taken away from them, so they're refusing. That's part of it. But there's a whole group of them that just, as the evidence continues to accumulate, they just do not want to go there. At some point, it'd be really, you should get George Howard.
George Howard.
He has a website called the Cosmic Tusk, and he's been in the forefront of this research probably since the 80s.
Interesting.
Right? He's also was one of the co-authors of a paper that came out in 2007 that proposed that the mass extinction was caused by some type of an impact. That was 2007. And that ignited a firestorm of controversy. It's gone back and forth and back and forth. But at this point, I think 8 to 10 teams around the world have independently verified that there is the fingerprints of a cosmic impact event that occurred around 12,800 to 12,900 years ago that seems to be right there along with the mass extinction. Now, back to the question, which is where would people have survived? And were such a thing to happen again, where could people survive? Well, there are places around the world. Like, for example, if you look in Africa today, where's the greatest concentration of megafaunal species in the world today? Africa, right? If we look at a census, continent by continent, what we see is that North America lost 3/4 of its megafaunal species at the end of the Ice Age. South America lost about the same percentage. Eurasia lost about 35%. Africa only lost 10%. That's why Africa today has the greatest number of megafaunal. When you start thinking about, and let me define megafaunal. A megafauna is defined as any animal that weighs over 44 kilograms in body weight, which is right about 100 pounds.
Okay.
So if you take the census of animals living on Earth today, there's about, and depending on how you divide them up, do you separate timber wolves from gray wolves? Do you separate African elephants from Indian elephants? Probably you do, but there's some variability in there. But let's say there's roughly 100 to 120 species of megafauna around the planet. It's about equal to the number of megafaunal species that went extinct around the world. So to put that in perspective, what that means is that you would have to, the number of species that got wiped out at the end of the last ice age, and there's an argument about, was the span a decade, 100 years, several thousand years? That's still being worked out, although it looks like it's honing in right at this boundary, which is dated at 12,900 years ago. Okay, so if you were going to duplicate a species extinction level event to the one that happened at the end of the last ice age, you'd have to pretty much eliminate every animal over 100 pounds body weight on Earth.
Okay.
That's how severe the mass extinction was.
Wow.
And that was, I mean, that's not even considered one of the great ones in Earth history. A great one in Earth history, you're talking about 70 to 90% of all species, terrestrial, marine, etc. Permian Triassic may be as much as 95% of all species on Earth went extinct, just like that. And they're still trying to figure out why, But so now, here's the interesting question. We can see from the, number one, species loss is going to be directly related to habitat loss. The greater the loss of habitat, the greater it will affect species that are adapted to living in that habitat. So you can conclude from that if 3/4 of the species of North and South America went extinct, that was where the greatest habitat loss occurred. So it was the last global catastrophe was kind of focused on the Western Hemisphere. Eurasia was second, Africa was third. So what that tells you is the safest place to have been on Earth during these events would have been Africa. Mm-hmm. And I suspect that it all pretty much is around Kenya, Tanzania, that's what I'm trying to say, thank you, around the Great Rift area.
Okay.
That's where it seems like was kind of a place of global refuge. You had the greatest survival of species, and once the dust settled in the aftermath of these events, they were able to repopulate.
So nobody really sought refuge. It was just luck of the draw where you were on the
Well,
on the
now
map.
you get down to a really interesting question. I think that the plausible scenario might be that you had survivors of two types. Those who survived by the luck of the draw, and those who survived because they knew it was going to happen, they planned for it, they prepared for it. And
You think they knew it was going to happen?
I think we could make a strong argument that somebody did know.
How so? How would they have known?
Well, see, this is where we now get into why ancient peoples all over the world were such obsessive sky watchers. And how did astronomers were able to predict this impact on Jupiter a year in advance? Now, I think that we could make the argument that there was, whatever you want to call them, a priesthood or whatever, whose job it was to monitor the skies for generation after generation. And typically, one of the things that would happen is that impacts, right now, we could think of Earth, we could think of Jupiter. And there are streams of stuff traveling between the two, almost like cosmic ping pong or something, right? Now, every year on June 30th and two times, right around late October, early November, late June, early July, Earth crosses this stream of cosmic debris that's called a torrid meteor shower. The peak of that, now it takes, to fully cross the stream, takes a couple of weeks, right? But the Tunguska object, if I come back, we can look at some really cool graphics.
Pull them up.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Sean Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.